Hello, YouTube, once again. Oh, I just thought of that quote. I think it was from Friends. Something about, once again I suckle at your smoky teat. Wasn't that Gunther in Friends? Having a cigarette from Chandler, I believe. Okay, so as usual, it takes me a little while to set up the stream, and oh, what's that? An advert or something weird. That's crazy. That's very strange. I've just clicked on my live stream and I've got this advert sounding thing. How weird. How weird is that? Okay. Well, that can bugger off, come on. Right, so I'm just copying this. Just sharing this to Fassy Bookie. Why not? Do. That's a snowy scene, isn't it? Crikey. That's not how I left it, trust me. Okay. Alright, pyramid time again. Alright. Okay. Alright, so what have we been doing? Well, okay, let's first of all let's deal with this flipping snow. Weather clear, please. There we are. Alright. So as you can see, we're suspended over the top of the old pyramid here. Now the only trouble with being up even on a clear day is that you don't get to really see, you don't get the full clarity. As you can see, it's kind of still all murky as soon as you get, it's just so big, it's only when you really get down. Not sure where we're going today. Okay, so here's the main causeway that leads off to the tower. There's the, so we're going to go around this way today. Now you can play with the settings in this, where you can adjust how the kind of wide angle the camera is, and it can go pretty extreme. I've got it set pretty how I like it, I think. Okay, so this was where I've been doing quite a bit of work down here of late. Now the only thing that's kind of bugging me now is that because this whole section, now that I've worked it down to the base in terms of sketching out where the pyramid's going to be on this side, and excavated all this rock, it's shown me that I'm that I'm directly underneath the old abandoned juggernaut there, and which casts a pretty big shadow over everything, and I'm a bit bummed about that, to be honest. I'm kind of like, well, my question is to myself, am I so bummed about it that I can be asked to go up there and demolish the thing? and I don't really want to do that. I'd rather finish it one day, but it is a bit of a pain having this shadow. But anyway, whatever. Okay, so if anyone was watching the last video, you might notice that we now have quite a bit more of this surrounding area excavated, and the pyramid sort of perimeter established. Not all the way around as yet, but it's getting there. So now this little this little villager hut here. See, this is the stupid thing about me, is that I feel some kind of responsibility to non-existent computer characters, that this little chap who lives in this little villager who lives in this house here, I didn't want to take his house away from him. So I kind of thought, okay, well, I'll build him a little floating platform with a gazebo over the top so that his house can stay nice and pristine rather than covered in snow and crap, and we still have a little pathway in to the rest of the village. Now, what I told myself about this village was that I thought to myself, you know what? I know that it's not an abandoned village, because obviously they look certain. There's lots of cobwebs and stuff, and you don't, yeah, you know that it's not abandoned. However, I hadn't seen anyone in it, and I thought to myself, oh, I don't really want to smash a village up and stuff, And I know that's really silly because it's Minecraft and it's not for real and everything, but I feel a little bit. I'm not a hippie kind of guy really, but I sort of feel a little bit like, oh, there's a villager. Hello, boy. How you doing? Hello. How you doing there? Yeah. Well, see, this is the guy. This is the chap. See, I hadn't seen anyone in the village for, well, forever. And I thought to myself, well, I know it's not abandoned because there's fires and chimneys and stuff going, but I've never seen anyone in it. And I was thinking, oh, shall I just destroy it, smash it, because it's kind of in my way. And like I said, I'm not really a hippie type, but I do kind of believe that, in a way, the way you sort of behave, even when there are no, stakes, real life stakes, can sometimes be indicative. It's like the thing with the trolley. You might have seen that meme about the supermarket trolley thing, in that absolutely makes no odds whatsoever whether you take that trolley back or not. But those that do, I think, sort of demonstrate a much more principled moral compass than those that would just leave it for someone else to do. That kind of thinking, I don't agree with. Anyway, so I thought I'd preserve the village. I haven't really done much other than I've kind of taken everything out underneath it, other than this scrap here. So there's still some cleaning up to do here, but the village is now sort of suspended, and I don't know. I just thought I'd keep it, and maybe try and fix it up a bit. There was some crops over here that were failing because the water had frozen. So I put these lanterns here to melt the water and then replanted them. But I mean, it's so silly. But anyway, this is off mission. So we got that pretty much done. All this taken out. Oh yes, that's all this here. This is now some kind of sculpture. This was the my first dynamite way of digging down and excavating, which I tried. Whoa, that's pretty spacey. I thought I would keep it and sort of turn it into a sort of sculpture. So I've kind of taken chunks away. You know, I took everything out of these walls that wasn't just basic stone. So all the earth and all the I didn't bother with certain ores and stuff, but it's a bit of colour. Anyway, we've got, what else have we got? So over here we've got a huge amount of block work to do. It's quite vast. I am wondering what to do about the illumination situation, because obviously at the moment with these great wrens in the side of the pyramid, when it's daytime, there's some light come flooding in, yeah, but once it's enclosed it will be quite dark, other than these sort of localized, you know. Weirdly, my daughter Talia said to me the other day, she said, why don't you just make the entire floor sea lanterns? And I said to her, you know, that there's a certain part of my thinking that is kind of going along those lines, but I think that it would be incredibly bright down here. Obviously it would be hugely bright, and I don't think it would look very nice, but it would be very bright, but it actually wouldn't extend much beyond sort of here in terms of how much actual flooding of light it would actually provide. Weirdly enough, it doesn't accumulate in the sort of way that you might imagine, and it's just a vast space, you know. You just have to have it reminds me of how when they were designing the look of the Enterprise in Star Trek, and they were talking about, or they were thinking about, okay, so how does a spacecraft, how do you see it, you know, in the blackness of space and deep space and stuff? How is it lit? You know, how do we light this ship? You know, and one of the solutions that they came up with was this idea of self-illumination. You know, so they would put lights all over the ship, so they had, you know, lights on the nacelles and lights on various parts of the ship that would then kind of diffuse along the flanks and along the sort of, you know, body of the ship, and kind of give you much more in the way of form and than you could get if you were just going to light it from, you know, I don't know, this snow situation again. Yeah, if you were just going to light it with a sort of, you know, some kind of directed, you know, well, which side's the sun on type thing, you know. So they had a process of self-illumination, and I kind of feel like this is kind of going along those lines, in that, you know, every time I place these lanterns in various locations, that they are doing that job. It's of self-illumination, creating the light and the dark, and the 3D, you know, texture of it all. However, it's not quite enough, but I don't want it to get really too kind of neon looking, you know, too much. In fact, it's already a little bit too much like that up here, I feel, with these great lines of lanterns. However, there's not much I can do about it really, because it's the way it is. Anyway, so here we are at the top. I don't really come up here very much. Just getting this flipping snow because I always bash a hole in the top to get out, and which I'm not going to do this time. So this is our central, thing here. This does go all the way down, more or less, and again, it's now a. I mean, it is broken a few times, in terms of this. It's not a continuous thing, but however, this center line, now it does go all the way down to. Whoa. I love that. That's pretty cool, right? So here we are, outside of the world. It's such a weird place to be. And if I drop, it's so strange. It will sort of. You have this kind of weird. You have stopped falling. However, there we are. So let's get inside again. Ooh. Alright. This thing I'm probably going to destroy. This is just this random thing that happened when I was trying to figure out how to deal with these great big water mountains. I have actually sussed a much more efficient way of dealing with those now. Which is to use sand, weirdly, to just dump tons of sand and then remove the sand. So you do a fill command with sand, and then you just remove it all with the same command with air. But it has because the sand is sort of one of those aggregates that drops. Most blocks, stone, whatever it is, will stay where you place it. If you place it against another block, whereas sand and gravel will fall and find a level. So it will fall until it finds the deepest level, which means you can drop it on a uneven area, and it will fill in all the little holes because it will drop down into them. So that's interesting, isn't it? No, it isn't. Okay, so you can see we're getting pretty close to this me spawn here, me bed. But I haven't really done. See, this is just like a facade at the moment. I haven't gone and filled all that in. But we have made some progress since the last time I was on, which was what, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. I'm starting to get a few views on these videos as well. Not many, but some, which is kind of weird, but it's cool. So what are we gonna do? Ooh, missed him. My little floating villager house. Oh, so it's all so open now, but that's a ton of block work. I can do a little bit of block work, I guess, but especially if I'm gonna chat about inane other things like whatever. So what happened today? Well, that sounds loud. Let me just let me see if I can turn that down. It's probably not going to work. My TV has oh, there you go. My TV has started doing a weird thing on the volume, where you turn it down, and it starts changing channel and doing all sorts of weird stuff, which is probably a sort of portent of, you know, awful things to come. But there you go. I've had it a long time now. It's a fantastic investment, really. 1,300 quid well spent. Had it, what, 10 years, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. Yeah. So I've been thinking about my approach to my attitudes, I should say, my attitudes towards teaching guitar and music. I used to do it when I first came back from college in the very early 90s, so 92, 93. I think really from the influence of my mother, actually. She was sort of, you know, I came and lived with her when I got back from college, and being massively in debt to the tune of at least 700 quid, which actually gave me sleepless nights. I can't imagine that. It's so strange to think of that now, when students are saddled with such amazing, crazy amounts of debt these days. But when I went to college, I had, we still had grants. You know, I had a full grant, which covered my tuition fees, and you know, money to live on. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was some. And there were a couple of other things that we got, these student grants, these sort of things that Liverpool were handing out at the time. They were like 100 quid here and 100 quid there. It was, you know, all grist to the mill. But I did get into debt, and I came home in 92, about six or 700 quid in debt, and had absolutely no idea how I was going to pay that off, and did have sleepless nights about it. And it seems so bizarre now to be, you know, to have been that worried about such a relatively small amount of money compared to, you know, what students have to put up with. In fact, compared to what students had to start putting up with pretty much almost immediately after that. I mean, that 92, I mean, that was right around then that you know, that student loans replaced grants. You know, it was right around that time that was all happening. Yeah, so this idea that 700 quid was, you know, a lot, soon got, you know, left behind. But it bothered me, and I got a job through a friend with a fire insulation company, weirdly, a sort of industrial company that went around fireproofing buildings. And so I did some crazy dangerous things for a few months, and earned some money and paid that off. But my mum suggested, you know, if I didn't want to do that kind of thing, why didn't I teach? And she had some friends who had children who wanted guitar lessons, and so there was, you know, there was kind of like half a dozen, maybe more, and I started doing that. And then when I started playing in bands, and kind of especially once I joined Tin Lily / Tut Tut, who had quite a big local following, and that sort of opened me up to sort of, attracting folks who wanted electric guitar lessons, who liked the band or liked whatever, and so I had a bunch of guys who'd come for lessons on electric guitar, and but I didn't find it a massively positive experience. I felt I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a good teacher, and to want to be a good teacher, and to not want to have someone, and to want to sort of inspire, or want to kind of make people as excited about guitar and music and whatever as I was, you know. And right around that time, just before then, in fact, my girlfriend at the time, Claire, she bought me a video that came out, a Satriani video called the Satch Tapes. And if there's anyone who, you know, knows about Satriani or likes Satriani, has probably seen the Satch Tapes. It was one of those, you know, major video releases of his around that time. And, you know, obviously everyone, you know, the fact that he started out as a teacher, giving private lessons to people like Steve Vai, is kind of well known about him, and so he was talking about that. And I remember he said something that I found that really kind of struck a chord, pardon the pun, deep with me, and that was something about it was, I'm only paraphrasing because there's no way I can remember exactly what he said now. Give me a break, it's been 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. But he said something about, it was about the responsibility of teaching, and he was saying that one of the things that used to kind of, you know, give him pause was this idea of, you know, of not messing up something. If he had something cool to show a student, he you know, he didn't want to mess up the delivery, you know, thinking of as a teacher as the delivery method of this technique or whatever, this knowledge, and he was very aware of not screwing up that, you know, delivery of that thing, so as to turn off the student to it, you know, and kind of be, you know, put a roadblock up and where there shouldn't be one. And I really took that to heart, and so it sort of added to my existing feelings about teaching, because I had a real mixed bag when it comes to, which I suppose we all do. I mean, there's nothing you know, unique about my experience, I'm sure, but I had at music college, when I was studying music, studying jazz, I had a couple of really great teachers and some okay teachers, but I had a couple of really good guitar teachers. One guy in particular was a Liverpudlian jazz guitarist called John Harper, who I've tried in vain to get in contact with over the years, but I guess he's either, well, hopefully he's still with us, because he wasn't that old when I was at college, but he was, you know, probably maybe in his 50s or something at the time. But of course that generation might not be particularly online, you know, so it's kind of difficult. But anyway, John Harper was a fantastic guy. Really can't say enough about how good he was. But I had gone to music college on the back of completely stuffing up my A-levels at school, and part of the problem with that was that I just completely was at odds with the teachers at my school, who just sort of, I don't know, we didn't see eye to eye on anything. And I was studying art at school. I didn't study music at school, and this in itself was part of my problem, in that they wouldn't let me study music, because I had started playing guitar just a little bit too late in order to before I really started getting meaningful with it, we had already kind of been put into our O level, as it was, courses, and so by the time I was kind of starting to really find my feet and start thinking I maybe had a talent for playing guitar, it was too late. And when I approached the school about that, they didn't want to, I wasn't allowed to do music, so I kind of thought, okay, well, because I wasn't allowed to do O-level music, they certainly wouldn't let me do A-level music when the time came, even though I was probably perfectly in a good spot to have done it, although, looking back, it may have been a little bit hard for me at the time of theory and stuff. That side of my character was lacking. But anyway, I was always at odds with them, especially the art teacher, who I liked. We actually got on all right, but we just didn't. I don't know. I was just not into, the same things that they were, and the stuff that I was into was very much looked down on and poo-pooed and not really kind of taken seriously. And so my experience with kind of trying to make something of that A-level course in my own sort of style was really hampered by that. So that I was into Roger Dean and Boris Vallejo and MC Escher, and just not the. I just wasn't into Cezanne, and and I liked a lot of fine art. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say that I was completely turned off by it. Not by a long way. I loved a lot of it, but the stuff that really was at the time that was most important to me was Roger Dean. I had his Views book, which I think had come out in the late 70s, and I was bought a copy of that. My Uncle Fred bought me a copy of that, and it had been so precious to me, and it had been a thing of, a book of wonders, absolutely just, I've never seen anything like it. What this guy would paint, these wondrous stuff, and so, this is, for those of you who don't know who Roger Dean is an artist who is probably best known for having been doing some of the early Yes album covers, although these days he's also quite well known for having sued Jim Cameron for plagiarising his stuff in what was that bloody thing, Avatar, which he definitely did, by the way. And but of course you can't really sue James Cameron and get away with it, can you? But yeah, but all his sort of floating worlds and kind of impossible topographies, and these sort of wizards with crazy. I remember he did these elephants with sort of tank turret heads and stuff. This kind of crazy stuff. I don't know. I loved his work. I love his style. And but when it came to kind of talking about him and A-level art or kind of anything like that, it was. I remember one of the teachers coming to me and saying to me that if I insist on pursuing Roger Dean as my critique, my artist of choice that I'm going to critique, and and all that, that I'll fail the course. You know. Now, I either didn't understand her correctly, or I did understand her correctly. But man, I was like, okay, well, what do I do with that? And at the end of the day, it became fairly moot because I got asked to leave the school anyway. So whatevs. But so the culmination of all that was that I had a very certain view of teaching, and I felt that the old analogy about the car on a straight road, that one always rang very, very true with me, in this idea of teachers have this privilege of influence. They are influencing their students at a very, very key stage in their development in a subject, and the old analogy about turning a steering wheel, half a degree, and it being inconsequential, 10 yards down the road, but 10 miles down the road, and you're in the weeds. You know what I mean? That idea, again, it just made me think about it, and I felt that I didn't feel like the students that I had were taking their studies seriously. And I don't mean it in a kind of stuffy way. What I meant was I didn't really want to take people's money when they patently weren't really practicing, and they weren't getting any better, and I felt like this was a sort of, I don't know, I just didn't feel right about it. I knew people at the time who taught guitar, and people would come for guitar lessons, with my mate Tim. I remember him telling me, they would come for guitar lessons with him, and they'd basically just sort of sit there and watch him shred, and just chat and and it was almost, in a way, perhaps they're almost paying for one-on-one time with someone they admire, rather than really wanting to have a guitar lesson, and I kind of, I didn't understand that at the time, and I thought, that it was kind of weird to take someone's money and not actually really teach them anything. However, it is a reciprocal thing, and if the student is happy, then I don't know, maybe it's okay. But I had this experience with one student who came, who was an electric student, someone who saw me at gigs and stuff, and he came and with this guitar that he'd bought, which was obviously his pride and joy, and my knowledge of different guitar makes and models back in the 90s was really not as great as it is now, and really not that good outside of my little area, so I can't actually remember now what it was that he brought. It was something pointy, it was like a Jackson or a maybe a Charvel or a Kramer, or something like that. Could have even been an ESP or something like that, but whatever it was a kind of very rock guitar, and at the time, I had two stage guitars at the time. I had an Ibanez, cheap Ibanez RG 360, and my backup guitar was an even cheaper Yamaha RGX 3 Art. And free art thing was you had this clear pick guard that went all the way over the front of the guitar, like covered the entire front face of the guitar, and you could take it off and stick it on a piece of paper and use it as a template, cut the paper out and sort of paint it and colour it and whatever, draw a picture or whatever it is you're going to do, and then stick it on the guitar and stick the scratch plate over it, and you sort of it was like a way of instantly customizing your guitar, and I bought one of those. I think I bought one when I was asked to join, when I was invited to join the band, Tin Lily. I didn't have a second electric guitar. I only had one at the time, and I knew that I needed a backup because I had a tendency to break strings quite a lot, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be the guy with one guitar, who breaks a string and you have to stop and then fix it. You don't want to do that. So I got this Yamaha as a kind of cheaper, more affordable alternative to the Ibanez, and but it had this customizable front thing, and I'd had several different designs on mine over the years that I'd had it, which wasn't that long, but I did get it while I was still up in Liverpool, actually. Or did I? No, I didn't. I got it when I got home. It was in '93. Anyway, and yeah, hang on a second. I'm just checking something. Oh yeah, there we are. Okay. Yeah, so by the time this chap was coming for lessons, I'd had a design on the front of it for some time, which I really liked, which Claire, who I mentioned earlier, had done for me. And it was all black sugar paper with those gold and silver pens that were quite new at the time, that you do cards and stuff with. And she'd done this design, and it was kind of sort of slightly paisley and slightly kind of squirrely and whirly, and it was cool, but it wasn't something that would it wouldn't stand close scrutiny. Like a close up, it looked like what it was, which was someone who'd done a nice design on a piece of paper. It didn't look like a sort of professional art job. No disrespect to Claire's artistic talents, but it was what it was. But from a distance, it looked pretty groovy, right? It was good. It was good as a stage thing. It looked good. Anyway, so the guy had this nice guitar, whatever it was, and weirdly, even though he was coming to me for lessons and was quite the beginner, he was a sort of just sort of maybe an intermediate sort of level, pub rock band type player, or I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, he had a certain level of ability and had this guitar, and this guitar looked substantially more expensive than my RG. Right. Anyway, so one week he comes for his lesson, and he doesn't have that guitar with him. He's got a sort of like a Strat copy of some sort, like an Encore or a Honor, or it was a non-Fender Strat. And I was like, oh, where's the other one? And he went, oh, I'm having some work done on it, and I was like, oh, cool. Didn't think anything of it, and a few weeks went by, and he came for his lesson, and he had the case with him, and he said, oh, I've got something to show you. And I was like, cool. Come upstairs, and so we went up to my studio, and out came the guitar, And like I said, I don't remember what it was. Like it could have been Washburn, ESP, whatever. Out came the guitar, and it had a new paint job. A very, very nice, expensive custom paint job, which looked like my Yamaha free art, and it looked like the someone doing a professional version of that, and it was proper, it was like under the, you'd had it stripped and repainted, looked like my guitar, looked like mine, gold and silver and squirrely and paisley, and then lacquered. It was a proper job. I don't know how much that had cost him to do, but it looked great, but and I was, I was sort of flattered, but I didn't really know how to take it, actually, because I was only young, and I didn't really know. I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. It's never happened. Nothing like that's ever happened to me before in terms of, anything like that. I mean, being in that band was, there were a few things like that. That band was the first time that I'd ever seen someone in public wearing a T-shirt with my band on it. That happened. Just randomly seeing someone in Tesco, or not Tesco, but in Summerfields or whatever it was called then, wearing your T-shirt, wearing your band T-shirt, and that was kind of like, that's weird, and I didn't even know who they were. I was like, oh, just someone who is into the band. That I subsequently sort of found out that there's people, there are people who support bands that they like by buying merch, even then, back in the 90s, who don't necessarily make themselves known. They're not the most vocal, coming forward and wanting to talk to you or whatever, type people, and then there are people who are like that, and these two who I saw that time wearing those Tut-Tut t-shirts, were like that. I think I was like, well, I've never seen you guys, but maybe the others had, I don't know. But anyway, so it was a kind of a weird thing to have this chap show me his guitar, and I kind of felt compelled to change my, this is the thing, I don't know whether it was sort of perverse of me to react to this by changing the design on my on the Yamaha, but I did. Very soon after that, I made one myself with I got all these sort of metallic card, so silver and gold card, like craft stuff, and cut it all up and made a design. Weirdly, had a pyramid on it. Hello. And I stuffed that on, changed the designs, put that on it, and so for the last couple of years of Tut-Tut, it would have had that design on. And weirdly, also the chap in question stopped having lessons. Now, we didn't fall out or anything, and he wasn't offended by me changing my guitar, I don't think. I don't remember anything like that anyway. But he stopped coming. Anyway, so the whole point of this excursion down memory lane was to sort of say that I had dipped my toe in the teaching private tuition waters, before, and I've avoided it ever since. And for all those reasons, for kind of for these kind of all these idiosyncratic, possibly, reasons that I've mentioned, in terms of just not wanting to be responsible for ruining someone's relationship to music or guitar, but also kind of not really being able to sort of get with this idea of someone just wanting to hang out with you, or kind of being perfectly happy to pay their money and just sit and do whatever. That just didn't compute to me back in the day. And so, but it's something I've been thinking about, especially since we've been sort of this year has obviously changed things for a lot of musicians, and it certainly has for me. I mean, we had, I think, Gav, the drummer in Signatures, I think he mentioned the other day that we had 70 something odd gigs in the diary in 2020, and we'd done 3 of them before all this happened. We had this theatre tour. We were going to be all over the flipping country with Lorraine Silver on this Northern Soul Theatre tour that we put together, and we did one show. We did the first show, and then this all happened. And weirdly, I had the same thing happen with the jazz quintet, in that I did one full show with them, with the boys, with the quintet boys, and then we were planning the next. We were just sort of working our way towards the next one, and then it all lockdown stuff. So it has kind of led me to think about teaching, but it's not just that. It's also kind of, I don't know, maybe as I've got older and I've sort of started to think about it a bit more, and be a bit more relaxed about the whole thing than I used to be. I obviously used to be quite sort of ferociously uptight about it, and I don't know. It's something that I could possibly feel like I could get something out of now. And yeah, it's not like I haven't done a little bit of here and there. I remember a few years ago, a good friend of mine, bass player friend of mine, was, we were talking about music and stuff, and it's interesting. It's only when you really when you play with someone, or you spend a bit of time doing some music with them or whatever, and you kind of gauge where they're at in terms of various things. So sometimes you play with musicians in a band or in some kind of collective, and you get the idea. Oh, okay, well, that guy knows a lot of theory, that guy doesn't. This guy sort of is very sort of by the numbers and likes sheet music and stuff, and this guy is really good at improvising and being kind of more like a self-taught type person who doesn't really know the names of things. There's lots of different flavors, and I remember this bass player friend of mine asked me about modes. We were talking about modes, and I said, well, look, if you're interested in kind of knowing a bit more about this stuff, I'm happy to kind of write you out a thing, talking about modes. Let's start at the beginning, and I'll try and conjure something up that might make some sense, because there's a lot of those. I feel like there's a lot of that kind of again, it's like what I was saying about ballsing up the delivery on something. I mean, I find modal thinking, theory and sort of the practical application of modal playing and just thinking about modes and how they are derived and all the rest of it. I find that all I always found that really engaging when I was studying that, and I use modes all the time. I'm a very modal player, in fact, in a lot of ways, and so I was always quite sort of energized about talking about them. But I found that a lot of musicians who aren't particularly theory sort of savvy find modal modes difficult to grasp, which is interesting, because I think with a little fundamental sort of theory under your belt, the modal theory becomes quite straightforward, at least certainly the sort of basics of it anyway. And I remember the sort of practical application of learning a bit about modes happening to me in a kind of very specific way, and it was to do with my listening to, before I went to college, listening to Satriani's then brand new Flying a Blue Dream album, his sort of third album, and listening to the title track, and the title track had this sort of very ethereal riff, this kind of signature riff, clean, very ethereal, very spacey, and the whole song was built on this riff, and the riff sort of modulates to different keys and stuff, and I remember at the time, picking out the riff and kind of understanding that it was essentially, if you were to raise a major triad upper tone and keep the bass root the same, you would get this sound, right? This particular flavor that you were hearing on Flying the Blue Dream. And I'd heard it before as well. It was something that was familiar to me, this particular sound. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was in terms of. I was thinking, well, I know how to play it, but I don't know what it is. And fast forward a year or so, and I'm sitting in college in Liverpool and learning about modes, and someone tells me about Lydian mode, and suddenly the penny drops, and it's like, well, that's what that was then. That whole thing, that whole Satriani lick from Flying a Blue Dream is a Lydian thing. It has this raised fourth on a major triad. And this idea of Lydian mode being, basically a major scale with a raised fourth, and it gives it this ethereal kind of slightly mysterious quality. And Satriani and Vai and millions of others have been, mucking about with Lydian for decades. Very popular with Vai in particular. But that was the first time that I had this direct kind of, a really, really direct connection from learning something and being able to apply it immediately to something that I listened to and then understood. Like, okay, there it is. And literally right around the same time, maybe Extreme came out with Get the Funk Out, and I bought the album, the Porno Graffiti album, and listened to Wholehearted for the first time, the song Wholehearted, and that's the same thing. It's got this Lydian feel where they're strumming a D chord and then raising the triad, the D triad that you play on the guitar, up a tone while still playing the D bass. And people have been doing that on the guitar for forever. In fact, when you play guitar, you do it. It's one of those things that you might do purely by accident just to see how it sounds. Extreme made a whole song out of that. And a very good one it is as well. But when that song arrived at my ears, it was like, well, there you are. It's another Lydian type thing. Well, we filled that whole bit. That's not bad, is it? I must say, my little house looks really, really dumb stuff on the side of my pyramid, but there you are. I don't know. So anyhow, the upshot is that I am considering teaching again. Just private stuff. I'm not too enthused about potentially anything more sort of crazy than that. Ooh, dang. Yeah, so sort of watch this space about that, because I'll certainly once I kind of figure out how I want to do it and whatnot. Oh, that's quite dark. I'll get those wheels a rolling. Oh, here we go. Crikey, more rain. No, come off it. So, do we bite the bullet and try and get a bit more of this expanse around the edge done? Where are we at in terms of time? I don't know. But yeah, so I'm kind of, I don't know. It would be nice to maybe try and teach a little bit of what you know. Yeah, it could be just music theory in general, or guitar, guitar, and specifically, I don't know. So, right, we've got this area. That's a lot of land. This is a big chunk right here to start taking away. You gotta start somewhere, haven't you? Been avoiding this area. Okay. Hello, Pusscat. Cat's come to sit with me. Okay. Okay. Alright, so I guess we'll maybe avoid. Maybe we'll plant us there. Okay, let's take a coordinate and see what we can do. 5840. yeah, it's been a very tough couple of months for a lot of musicians out there. It's, I mean, you know, I'm extremely fortunate to have had, you know, another income, you know, in terms of my day job being music, you know, industry, but not performing. And so it hasn't been as terrible for me as it's been for so many of my friends who are out there trying to earn a crust, and obviously finding it next to bloody impossible. And things are starting to improve a little bit, but it's weird how, you know, the thing that's kind of coming back, you know, it's very small scale. You know, this, you know, it's pub, beer garden type, or, you know, that sort of thing. Rather than you know, the kind of concert venue stuff, I think is still completely screwed. I saw a video. Too many blocks. Okay, hang on one moment. 68. Let's try that. I saw a video of Robbie Gladwell and his band playing a sort of socially distanced open air gig, and like a drive-in. They'd set it up like a drive-in thing, so they had a stage, you know, in a field or whatever. I'm not sure where it was, but and you know, it was like a drive-in type arrangement with cars parked and picnic chairs and whatever. And but I haven't, you know, I mean, it looked great and everything, but it's kind of, to me, I was like, how did that, was that, you know, did they make any money on that, or was that just purely for, you know, it seemed like I don't know whether the camera angle wasn't, you know, sufficient to kind of give you a good view of the audience, but it seemed like there just weren't enough people there for it to have been, you know, cost, you know, to be economic, you know, to sort of sustain itself or pay for itself or whatever, you know, in terms of the effort it must have taken to put the show on in the first place. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that seems to be the sort of the crux of it at the moment, in this idea of, you know, how do you you know, pay for a band? How does the venue, you know, like with the signatures, you know, how does the venue book the signatures, and yeah, they need to, you know, they need maybe, I don't know, 300 people to break even, you know, but they're only allowed to have 50. You know, how do you do that? You know, how does that work? It just bloody doesn't work. You know, which is, I guess, why the sort of the venues, small to medium venues, just aren't, you know, they're just not doing it. Which is why we've got, you know, 70 bookings but no gigs. I don't know. It's crazy, man. I hope it changes soon. I was a bit annoyed to see that snooker thing the other day, yesterday. The snooker on the TV with 0 social distancing, but I'm kind of... I don't... Because I haven't had a chance to fact check that myself, I don't know whether there's anything going on with that report in terms of it possibly being a pre-COVID shot that they used for the... But hopefully, hopefully it wasn't, you know. We like to be above board, you know. Oop, wrong one. But it is one of those things. It's tricky. Is that gonna do it? Yeah. Cool, it's getting glitchy at the moment. Yeah, so we are taking it down a little bit. It seems like... Yeah. Yeah, let's raise that up a little bit. Maybe we'll go here for a minute. Do C70. Let's have a look. Too many? Yes, of course it is. Ooh. Let's try again. Let's raise this up to 67. Ugh. Alright, move forward again. Just reduce the footprint size. Still too many. This is the thing with this, it's a little bit... 34, okay, we can afford to move forward a bit more. It's a little bit... Oh, there we are, got some there. Let's go up to 70. It is a little bit hit and miss, this stuff. And what level is this? 70. There's a great big carbuncle that needs dealing with. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, it's been extremely depressing for a lot of my fellow musicians. And you know, some people have really sort of taken the bull by the horns and managed to parlay the situation to their advantage, which, you know, is fantastic for them. And it really, I think it really depends on where you're at in terms of your momentum with your fan base, you know, or how you're doing with that. You know, I'm thinking, there's several bands that I know at the moment that have, you know, they've been rocking the whole sort of lockdown live stream stuff. And I don't know why I'm doing this manually. It's quite sort of therapeutic though. You can sort of just do it. This is like packing in a factory. It's sort of like your mind is elsewhere, but you're just doing it. Yeah, it's kind of something that you can do if you have a sort of engaged fan base already, that you've been cultivating. But if you haven't, I don't have that with my acoustic stuff, and even the signatures, we kind of, we have a strong, loyal and sizable fan base. But even if, even when we do a live thing, you're not necessarily gonna get hundreds of people tuning in, and the thing is, even if you do, that's still not earning you anything. It's not earning you anything unless any of those people put their hand in their pockets and you put one of those tip, to do a PayPal tip jar and all that, So it's kind of, I don't know. It's weird. Obviously, I sort of echo a lot of people's sentiments, and I'm just kind of, just can't wait for the whole thing to be a thing of the past that we all laugh about, rather than something so, divisive and controversial and difficult, as if England needed something else for people to disagree about and be all in each other's business over. So what else can we be all in disagreement and, hate each other over? Oh, masks. Yeah. Bloody hell, live and let live, will you? I don't understand it. My cousin Lucy had a nasty experience with a guy who saw fit to bellow at her in a shop for not wearing a mask, and I'm like, well, I do wear masks when I go into shops, but obviously not everyone can, and it is something of a controversial topic, and people have strong feelings about it and whatever, and, but the thing is, regardless of what anyone might think of someone not wearing a mask, it really isn't the right thing to do to shout and bellow and scream at them. And especially, if you're just another customer like this guy was, it's like, okay, well, let's, what happened to being civil? What happened to being pleasant and, kind and thoughtful about these things? You can have a discussion about it, without resorting to that. But people do resort to that all the time. It's kind of like it's the new road rage, mask rage. I don't know why I'm doing this manually. It's such a great big chunk to move. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move back to the here, and we're going to take it down. Take it down. Oof. Where are we at there? That's 62, isn't it? Okay. Oh, no. 62. many blocks. Oh, okay, hang on. Alright. Cool, it really is a bit of a slog, this one. I mean, it's only 15,000 doing one layer, but the trouble is that is over half. That's you know, I say it's over half. It shouldn't be over half. Should it 15,000 odd? That should work out pretty well. So you should be able to do 2 layers, but it doesn't seem to be working out that way. Now I have no idea how long I've been boring the pants off everyone. So let's try and figure that out before I move on. Yeah. Come on. Oh, okay. So we are over the hour mark by a little bit. Well, there we are. Maybe I'll do a few more minuets. So we're at 62. Maybe we'll go 61. Too many. Yeah, it's really only liking one layer at a time. That is going to take some time doing that. Yeah, so these water areas here, now these are prime examples of when you're going to get these water towers building. Like this, there's one build. These are going to build here. So what's going to happen is if I take out, these, the land in a command movement, what you're going to end up with is this will still be here, and it will kind of have a huge, it'd just be a huge column of water, which you then have to try and clear. And what I could do, because this is quite a body of water here, what I could do is just do my little sand trick. So I could do that right now, in fact. So starting here, let's say you could go sand and see what happens. I might just change that to 5. Oh, there you are. 22,000 sand blocks. It gets very glitchy. And there we are. So what's going to happen now is that, it's not... Oh, come on, glitch. It's not nearly enough sand to have filled these waterways in, but it's started to fill them in. Right? It's covered those couple of little towers that were emerging, water towers that were emerging. And so what you can do now is do it again. In fact, you can do this command again with air and remove it. He says confidently not being able to do it. Ugh. Oh, come on, Ben. What are you doing? Alright. Let's try. Alright. So that was taken off all the sand, apart from the sand that dropped into here. So what we actually need to do then is drop a shed load more. So 62, 63, 64. It is a large area though, so it's not going to make me. It's not going to let me do that much. Too many. There we are. Boof. So let's drop to another 2. Now you see how the waterways are now a little bit more filled. Ooh, glitch mungus. And we could do that again. Bubble, bubble, bubble. There we are. So that's pretty much, ensured. Obviously, I need to do that bit over here, but that's pretty much ensured that all that water has been filled in with the sand, because the sand has this particular property where it drops. You see, so if you put some sand on this block here, it will just fall down. See, whereas other blocks will adhere. So sand and shingle, So that's essentially, on a larger scale, that's what's happened here. It's just fallen into the gaps, filled them up, which is quite handy because then I can now just remove it all. He says confidently before actually trying it. Too many blocks. No, it's done it. There you are. So good. And then again. There we are. So all these watery bits pretty much filled in, except when they're flipping frozen, of course. Handy. But even with stuff like that going on, it's a lot more manageable, because that means now that when I take these layers of earth away, you're not going to get these massive towers build again, these water towers, which are a pain to deal with once you got them. So let's go back to here and try another one. Where are we at? 61. Oh, come on. 61, wasn't it? What did I do 62 for? Yeah. It's obviously a large area to be taking. The problem is, see, this is what I was saying the other day about being efficient. This isn't a very efficient way of doing this, because I'm getting 17,000 odd blocks per command, and I'm only able to go down one level at a time. But if I go down 2 levels, then you blow your 32,000 block limit on one action. So what you need to do instead is either have the thing bring the coordinates back further to here, or something like that. Try that. So let's just have a look. Where are we? Okay. So we could change that to 5880, and just get rid of that so we get a syntax error. Okay, and then hoof it back to right the way over here, and see what happens when we do a single layer takeaway. Oh, silly boy. I'll put that air back in. Air. And away we go. So yeah, that's a bit better, 20,665. But we're still 12,000 short of how many we can have. Oh look, now look, because I haven't dealt with that yet. We've got this water thing happening here. Ay, 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 ay. Now this is my... Oh, I knew there was something else I wanted to show you. Okay, let's go see the jebs. Now if you remember, I have some sheep, and they're all called Jeb, and they live over here. Now I have the same situation with the Jebs as I had with the village over there, in that I don't, my son created these, my son Hector, my eldest son, and I don't want to get rid of them, me rainbow Jebs. So I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do with them? What am I going to do? I've got to preserve the this little thing, even though it doesn't really hold with, I don't know how it's going to really go with the aesthetic that I'm creating in this pyramid, but who cares? It is what it is. So I started today. I started digging it out, and so we're kind of. I just wanted to be sure that when I start really taking this earth out with command instructions, that I'm nowhere near the actual thing. And so we end up with our nice sort of semi-floating sheep area. Jebby Jebs. I might try and kind of do something, a bit more fancy with it, but at the moment I've kind of, I've thrown this quartz perimeter on it, and this under here, and I've dug all the way under here, and this is where we're at. So we will persevere with that and end up with a little Jeb corner, and why not? They're cute. It's okay. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. I might close up the this entranceway. Then again, I might not. But so Jebs check. Oh god. Interior of vast pyramid check. It is getting large in here. it's still a lot of work to go, but it's a lot of work done as well. So it's I'm still very enthused to see it finished. So let's get back over here. I'm still wondering whether to take these guys out or not. Oh, snow. Actually, I think to end off, we shall enjoy the snow for a bit. Climb our pyramid. Yeah. So hopefully, if I do, when I do another one of these, I'll leave it again until I've done something significant, like I did this time, because it was starting to annoy me that the progress is so slow that I kind of that there's hardly anything changing. There we are. We leave the way we came in at 400 or so elevation. Crikey. And yeah, thank you all for joining me, those that have. Thank you for watching this, those that will. Like the video, subscribe if you wish, all that good stuff. As my son Hector is so fond of saying, it all helps to build the channel. Smash the notification bell, blah blah blah, all that stuff. He's willing to. You know what? He hasn't done a live stream for a while. I think the novelty has passed. Bless his heart. Right, let's get rid of this snow and then check out. Boom. All right. So good night all, and see you on the flip side.